Hey guys, it's Tara time, and today I hope it's one of those videos where I don't start crying later, but I don't know, I feel like it might be. So Rec Room just laid off 16% of its staff, and it's not even a big company to begin with. You guys, they let Marisa go. Marisa. Like, I know you may not know who that is depending on if you play Rec Room on your iPad and you're 8, or in VR and you're 15, but if you know, okay? She's the one who taught us the expression, keep giving it your Rec Room best. If you hear me say that, no, I didn't come up with it, that's all her. She was a pillar of the community. I say that like she's dead. She's not dead, she's just not working for Rec Room anymore. I'm hoping that some of the stuff I'm about to talk about resonates with you guys, because there has been a gigantic influx of people lately making content about quitting Rec Room. And I get it. It's so easy to vilify the game, throw them under the bus, and basically just rant into the void as to why you think you could run the game better. Most people think Rec Room is a cash grab and everything's too expensive. So many people think it's just cooked. They think there's no good maps to play anymore, and all the game does is release overpriced items and roll in money while becoming corporate and pandering to 7-year-old players. But the fact is, games don't just lay off that much of their staff if they're making money. And the truth about the player base they seemingly target might be less intentional than we think. So let's talk about a few things and break them down realistically. First of all, you know that I am also guilty of making critical videos about Rec Room from time to time. Usually it's during moments like this where something major happens and I just need to get it off my chest to feel better. I'm a content creator, and writing these things out is how I cope with the changes to the game too. I make the video, I whine about it, I move on, usually. Some underlying points I will continue to bring up, like the removal of the weekly being the straw that broke the camel's back when it came to keeping those loyal VR players coming back to play Rec Room each week. How ironic that I'm standing next to a camel as I say that. Anyway, yes, that's a hill I'm willing to die on. It wasn't a big group of people, but the weekly was an important one. And I want to mention something that is now out there in the open for public knowledge, and that is, Rec Room is clearly not making profit. You just don't lay off staff if you're profitable, and Nick, the CEO, released this entire essay explaining everything that went down and why. I will link to it in the description in case you want to read the whole thing, but basically he states that Rec Room has always been an underdog. And I quote, "Gaming startups don't work. There's no market for VR. You can't port that game to consoles. Phones? Forget it. It'll never run. UGC gaming is a fad. In-game creation tools will never be powerful enough to build good games." He realistically states that all these reasons mean that Rec Room has always been fighting an uphill battle, and he's not wrong. VR has never been more stagnant. It's not 2020 anymore. People aren't stuck at home due to a COVID pandemic. The only reason I ended up with a Quest 2 was because PlayStation 5s were sold out. Quest 3s are more expensive, and who would buy their kid a new VR after just a few years, because the original one got such bad controller drift it was basically unusable. If I was a parent, I'd be like, no, I got you one before. It's not my fault it's broken. Rec Room probably runs like garbage on a phone. My phone barely ran it the one time I tried. UGC gaming might very well be a fad. Free-to-play games are on the rise in popularity, but is anyone actually buying enough stuff in the games to keep those companies afloat? In addition, you might be too young to care about this stuff, but chances are you've heard your parents talking about how expensive everything has gotten in the past few years. Housing costs, groceries, interest rates, it's all gone up tremendously. When things are expensive, you know what's the first thing they'll cut back on? Giving little Timmy a Rec Room gift card, making sure little Timmy isn't having FOMO over missing out on the weekly storefront. All of that becomes less important because making ends meet is so much more critical. So when people tell me that Rec Room is dying, I can't help but just sigh, because there are so many more factors that go into this than people realize. No, I thought that was going to take me to a new soap room, but I guess not. Mad props to the person who fit all of this with 100 ink. Alright, if 7-year-olds buying a ton of costumes in UGC maps is keeping the economy running in the game, they would be kind of stupid to bury all of those ignited costume park maps, since obviously a big portion of players are enjoying them, even if the rest of us roll their eyes. And yes, there is a very major issue affecting players and the Rec Room creator economy. I cannot deny that. There's Sprunky sprouting up everywhere, and AFK creators running around, well, sitting around, friending people in maps in order to gain subscribers, in order to spam invite those people to get traffic to their maps, in order to get on the hot tab. Some form of this has been a problem for a long time now. Remember when everyone was just ripping off Roblox thumbnails? If it's easy, there's a ton of people that will do it. This includes making a basic room with a ton of costumes to buy, and then 50% of it is just inventions that other people have made. All of this nonsense and the removal of build contests, the weekly, and other things that older creators thrived on has led to a really weird feedback loop. And don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of good maps out there to play, but the problem is that most Rec Room YouTubers were from the 2019 to 2021 era in VR, a time where build contests churned out quality Quest maps, and this new day and age where it's overwhelmingly different has been a catalyst for many to just throw in the towel, give up their VPP codes, or just quietly walk away. They miss the old Rec Room. They don't understand the new direction things are heading. They wanted it to stay VR only because the community was tighter knit back then, items were cheaper, and maybe it's just a big old bunch of nostalgia. It doesn't feel the same to them because hundreds and maybe thousands of hours of Rec Room later, it's not the same. I was like one of the last major Rec Room YouTubers to arrive on the scene. Honestly, I never felt like I belonged in that group, and now the group barely exists anymore. Most have moved on, and a lot of Rec Room YouTubers remain remaining have seen their views go down. Rec Room as a whole doesn't seem to be as hot of a niche anymore, at least not on YouTube. My supporter count in-game remains mostly the same, but my income is just down on YouTube and in Rec Room. So if a lot of content creators aren't making content on Rec Room, the game is tightening its belt and laying off staff, the creators that are die-hard builders are making what's quick, easy, and profitable, where does that leave us? What does the future hold? Well, I honestly don't know, but I do know that when I play Animal Company or Gorilla Tag, they're pros at generating hype. Animal Company recently designed a jacket that only like 1,000 people could get originally, based on one of their original YouTubers, Just Toasty, making content on the game. It was like a feeding frenzy trying to enter the code in the computer. Not only are they putting out frequent updates, but unlike Rec Room, I see these games dropping hints on their Discord, promo codes, teasers. There's always something to talk about. I never had much experience with other social free-to-play VR games until recently when I started another channel. I stuck to Rec Room and that's all I knew. So of course I felt like I had nothing to compare it to. I just figured Rec Room's doing okay for themselves and I didn't think much more into it than that. Now I kind of see the lack of community excitement and the failed attempts at creating lore that could have been so much more, in a way that could have created replayability and a buzz within the community. The weekly was the replayability for a lot of people, and they killed that, gradually then suddenly. The weekly storefronts is another thing I enjoyed checking out, and recently it's been a big giant push towards what UGC creators are building. I think the Valentine's storefront was up for what, 3 weeks without changing? That one is unprecedented in my time in the game. It scares me too, because reporting on storefronts obviously helps encourage spending, which helps me. I can report on UGC clothing too, but I'll be honest, they're oftentimes not as quality as what Rec Room themselves can come up with. And of course not, they have like a whole art team, whereas UGC clothing is made from like one creator. I love the UGC stuff too, don't get me wrong, and some of it's downright fantastic, but I worry about how that's going to affect Rec Room's profits too. Will people spend more or less now? If things are just overall cheaper, I think they just spend less. And what even brings people back to Rec Room to keep playing? It's been so long as a YouTuber now, I can't even answer that question for myself. Besides, it's my job and it's nostalgic for me because of the quests, and they're certainly not making any more of those. The problem is, no one else is either. I do understand Rec Room's goal of making it so that other builders can make those experiences for players. The problem is, they aren't. So without extending an olive branch from the old Rec Room to the new Rec Room, it does feel like it's in a bit of an awkward spot right now. Everyone keeps hearing about Rooms 2, but any creators I talked to said it launched too soon, it was buggy, they had a bad first impression, and now they're afraid to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Look, I don't know much about anything, but that just doesn't sound like a good thing. I think Rec Room has genuine competition in the VR space with games like Animal Company on the rise. If you just look at the meta store, the numbers speak for themselves. This is a time for them to perhaps do some soul searching and find the spark that made Rec Room unique and breathe some life back into the community. And maybe the Rec Room staff that remains should play more Rec Room and other games too. Get some inspiration on ideas they can implement. I'm personally still waiting for the Forbidden One to make a comeback. There's a lot of missed opportunity to drum up hype, and it's another reason content creators are bored. I feel like this video is all over the place, but I have so many thoughts as usual, and not to mention my workload has doubled recently. I'm trying to achieve 2 videos posted on this channel per week, 2 videos on my other channel, and I'm trying to cut back on editor fees because I'm really just trying to make ends meet with Rec Room income at the moment. So I'm insanely busy trying to do all the things all at once by myself. Maybe it's the stress of overwork, or maybe it's just hearing that people like Marisa were laid off, but it feels like the final nail in the coffin for old Rec Room. And I was definitely upset when I heard the news. It feels like slamming a giant book. It kind of forces you to wake up and realize maybe the future is more uncertain than you think. So that's where I am with Rec Room. I feel kind of scared for them. I want them to succeed so badly. I wish they would listen to more of what the VR community wants because I'm certain we're some of the most passionate players in the game, and I truly wish they would add clever lore and excitement to the game, dropping hints and more exciting updates that create buzz. I know now that other games are doing this more successfully, in a way that appeals to like that Gen Z, Gen Alpha group. But regardless of everything, I think Rec Room needs our support more than ever. It's been so much negativity lately, when the reality is, Rec Room's future could be uncertain. But if VR folds, and really Meta is bleeding money making VR headsets, so who knows what's gonna happen, Rec Room might find itself probably in a better position than games like Gorilla Tag, because they aren't only VR. None of us can predict the future about what will happen, but I'm still here trying to root for Rec Room's success. Use code Tara in Rec Room if you made it this far in the video. Truly, it's the easiest thing you can do in the game to help me keep this channel running and make ends meet. And I would really appreciate it. And to all of you guys that continue your support all the time, thank you so much. It means the world to me. Even if I can't thank you personally, it does mean a lot. And I put another video on screen here for you to watch next. If you enjoy my rants, you'll definitely want to check this one out. Well, keep giving it your Rec Room best, everyone.